Hi guys, so for today's video we're going to take a look back at the photography show which was last weekend and see what we got up to there. We're also going to have a quick talk about what cameras I've just decided to change to, because obviously I've been doing predominantly stills up until now, but I'm trying to get more and more into video. So obviously I needed to have a look at my equipment and get the best for the job. So we'll talk about what I went for, why, and why I didn't choose some of the others, because obviously there's loads of good options available. But let's run the VT now. So we're going to go back to talking about cameras and deciding which one I actually bought in a minute. But for now we're going to take a flick back to the photography show and have a few clips of one of my favourite YouTubers, and that's James Popsys. There's a few clips of his talk that he did on the Tuesday, I believe. I think he did it on the Tuesday. So yeah, let's watch a bit of his talk and then we'll get back to talking about cameras.
I've chosen this for a few reasons. It has some things that I would suggest are necessities for vlogging. Maybe not necessities, but they make the process much easier. The first I'd suggest is a screen that points towards you so you can check you're in focus and that you've cleaned your teeth. The second is that this has stabilization, so I walk around quite clumsily. Again, you'll know that if you've watched any of my videos. And when I trip over a log, for example, and I have the stabilization on this, it's still usable footage. Yeah, so I try and get a video out weekly. I found in the past that I've aimed for 2 videos a week and the quality just kind of dropped.
So yeah, welcome. We'll obviously you've just had a look back at some of the stuff I got up to at the photography show. We saw some of the leading brands and I got to try some cameras out, which I thought was a great time to look at switching brands, because I've been using Canon. I've been using a 5D Mark III for 5 or 6 years now for my still photography, and about 2 years ago I added a 6D Mark II as I started to do a bit more video. But obviously for video it's still lacking. It didn't shoot 4K, it didn't shoot 120 frames a second at 120p, which was you'll find out at the end of the video. Yeah, so as I said, we tried out some of the cameras at the photography show. The Fuji X-T3, absolutely love it for video, but again I'm not such a fan for stills. It's APS-C format sensor with a 1.5 times crop, so it has its limitations as far as still goes. But the video from it is absolutely lovely. 400 megabits a second at 4K 60. So yeah, what's not to love as far as video goes? But like I said, as far as stills, I just thought the crop sensor didn't quite do it for me. So yeah, that's basically why, as you can probably tell, I didn't go for the Fuji X-T3. Panasonic, obviously they've got their GH5 lineup, which has been great for video for years. They've also recently brought out the S1, but the S1 was just slightly out of my price range and I didn't think the range of lenses was that great on it. But as a camera, if I could afford it and the range of lenses was better, I probably would have seriously considered it. But the GH5, again, micro 4/3, not a big fan of the smaller sensors. Really, full frame is what I need, because as I said, I run a business as a still photographer. Video is sort of more a sideline, so for me the stills have to be just as good, if not better, than the video quality. So on a micro 4/3, I just didn't think you'd get that sort of depth of field in your bokeh for your portraits and all that sort of stuff. So that's why I didn't go for them. And yeah, the Canon, obviously already got Canon. I've got Canon glass, Canon lenses already. But for me, the EOS R just wasn't quite what it should have been. Loads and loads of people online are going on about 2 card slots. For me, that's not a big deal because I was using the 16 Mark II anyway. But what was a big deal for me is if I was going to change cameras to a hybrid system, I wanted something that could shoot good slow motion at 120 frames a second, and the Canon just couldn't do that for me. The 4K video looks good. The dual pixel autofocus looks amazing too. But yeah, it's just the lack of 120, and it just didn't do it for me. So yeah, obviously I know there are other offerings. Olympus have got the OMD EM1X or whatever it is. I can't think of the model number. I'll put it on the screen just for clarity. And obviously Sony have got their A7 series and the A9, which that's what I ended up going for in the end of the day. So newsflash, I bought a Sony A7 III mainly because it's full frame, it shoots amazing 4K, it shoots 120 frames a second at 1080. It's got 2 card slots. It's, you know what I mean, the range of lenses is decent. Yeah, so basically, okay, the 4K is only 30 frames a second, whereas the Fuji does 60. It's also only 100 megabits, whereas the Fuji can do up to 400. But no, as far as I know, for what I do, which is I'm not going to be making production films much. It's mostly just going to be YouTube videos, so the extra bitrate doesn't really matter too much. So yeah, right out the box, for me, Sony seemed to tick all the boxes. It did everything I wanted to. There was no sort of major drawbacks. So yeah, that's what I opted for. I got a good deal at the show. They threw in a MC11 lens adapter, so I could still use my Canon lenses. And I bought the Tamron 28-75 as my walk around zoom. It's a good zoom range, 2.8 aperture all the way through. Seems lovely and sharp. And again, at the show, it was discounted. So yeah, that's what I went for. We'll talk more about the camera I went for. I've still got my 16 Mark II as my backup camera, but eventually I will be changing that to probably another Sony, either going for maybe an A7R III so I can get more quality stills, because obviously, as I said, I do stills as well. Or maybe I'll wait and see what they bring out as maybe the A7 IV or whatever they call the next version. Maybe they'll bring out something that does 4K 60, a higher bit rate. We'll see. Or I have also considered the crop sensor versions as a backup, because obviously my main stills camera can be full frame and then my vlogging camera can be backup with crop. That's fine. But I just didn't want a main camera to have a crop sensor because I need it for the stills. But yeah, basically, that's my thought process. I tried them all in my hands, and ultimately, I feel like what I bought was the best under the circumstances, sort of within my budget. So yeah, I look forward to using it. This is kind of the first video I've really shot with it. I have got a video shoot later, which I'll sort out after. But yeah, hopefully you'll like the videos that I'm producing. I know I haven't produced one for months and months, but that's partly because I just wasn't feeling the Canon for video, and hopefully now that I've got, now that I've changed to the Sony, should be able to produce some good stuff more regularly. I don't want to blame my gear, it's also a lack of time. I've been really busy, but hopefully now we'll be able to get some stuff going. And I look forward to seeing the next one. So don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up if you want. And if this video bores you to death, then just hit the dislike button twice. So we'll see you in the next one.